Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Allie and this is Allie G Reads, and I'm going to continue my bookshelf tour. This is actually the shelf like where I normally sit. It's directly across from me. Also, I apologize, I haven't really been on here. I just haven't had the energy, and I feel like much better now, like I'm in a better place. So I was like, it's a good day to film. And yeah, here we are. So we'll be doing my bookshelf tour, and you know how it goes. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so because like my vinyls are on the shelf, I'm also going to do like a small vinyl tour, but I'm going to do it at the beginning of the video, so that way if you're not interested at all in vinyls, you can just skip to the start of the books. These are all like pretty much Rammstein vinyls because that's really all I've got. 25th anniversary edition of Herzeleid, which means heartache, and this is their first album, so I got a special edition version of it. I showed it on another video, but it's a heavyweight splatter vinyl, which is kind of cool. It's probably one of my favorite albums, probably one of the best debut albums. We have their second album, Sensut. This, you know, came out in late 90s. This has Du Hast on it, so this I would think is the album that shot them into international fame. Honestly, it's not one of my favorites, but there's some songs on here that I really love, obviously. Du Hast, so have to have it. Then we have the Mutter album. This is my favorite album of all time, like of any band ever. It was not easy to find. I had to ship it from Germany from their website, but this is like virtually a no skip album for me. This is honestly one of the best vinyls albums ever. It's an all-time favorite of mine, so glad I finally got my fucking hands on it. Then we have the Reise album. This is like a 2004, I think. This was, fun fact about this vinyl, they stopped doing North America shows. They got really disenchanted with touring through the States and everything, and they were tired of it. So they did like a long hiatus, and this album was post that hiatus, and there is like the single from this album was a song called America, and it's an anti-American song about the globalization, about America's influence over the world. And I love that they start the song with "This is not a love song." It's so good. It's so good. Really ballsy move too, to not go back for 10 years. Probably my second favorite of their albums. This is Liebe ist für alle da. I wear the Liebe ist für alle da t-shirt all the time on my channel. It means love is there for everyone. This is kind of like a heavier album, actually. This is definitely a return to metal. It's almost a no skip for me as well. I really, 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 really love this album, and I love the Renaissance art in the album. It's so good. So, love it. One of my favorite records ever. Their most recent album came out in 2019. This is a self-titled debut. I love, again, the art. I love the concept of it. It was such a great return for them. It's not as heavy. It's actually more dance influenced, but there's some heavier songs. It's such a good album. It's so well thought out, and I got tickets to see them, but the COVID happened, so it had to happen next year. But I am so fucking excited to hear some of these songs be played for the first time, and yeah, it's a great album. I think if you like more like dance stuff, it's pretty good. I got Frau und Mann, this woman and man. This is Till's second album from his solo project Lindemann. This has a lot of Soviet art in it. Really good album. really, this was totally him able to experiment. If you're ever curious, honestly, this is such an interesting album. He experiments with dance, pop, hip hop. There's like a Spanish guitar tango song on here. It's such an interesting album. Truly an interesting album. Yeah, I love that he isn't shy to branch out, and he is such an artist. And this, I think, is an album that really works to show his artistic ability and how he can put his voice onto any song and make it art. It's amazing. Clearly I love Till. Okay, we all know that. But yeah, if you're interested in like an experimental type of album, this is definitely a good example of one. All right, let's get into what everyone's really here for. Let's get into the books. I'll start from the bottom up because why not? I'm on the floor anyway. Start with my Neil Gaiman books. I'm not huge into fantasy, but sometimes I do like to venture into fantasy. First, we have The Ocean at the End of the Lane. This was one of his more recent books. This is, it's not that long. I don't even remember what it's about, but I remember really liking it. Like, it was a really good, almost like Coraline vibes. So that's the vibes I got when I read this. Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. This is probably one of the funniest books I've ever read. I definitely laughed out loud in this book. It's so funny. Not high fantasy. It's about, it's a comedy about an angel and a demon that lose the Antichrist and then go on like a mission trying to find him for the end of the world, of course. It was adapted into a Prime show as well, and it was really good. Like, for an adaptation, it was really, really good with Michael Sheen and David Tennant. Highly recommend. Stardust. This was also adapted into a movie with a ton of people in it. It's okay. I like the movie, honestly, I think a little bit better than I like the book. Fragile Things is a short story collection of his. I haven't read all of them, so I can't really give an opinion on it. Probably Neil Gaiman's most famous work today. This is American Gods. It was also adapted into a show on Prime. I think it's on Prime. Yeah, this is basically the old gods are in a battle with the new gods, and the new gods are now like the TV and electronics and cars, like, you know, modern conveniences. It was a really interesting concept. I really, really actually like this book. Tell No One. I don't know what it's about. Missing You. Don't know what it's about. Gone for Good is the one that got me into Harlan Coben. This is an excellent, excellent twisty mystery. This is so good. So good. He's a good writer. He does plotting very well. And The Woods. I remember buying this because I read Gone for Good and I really, really liked it. And then someone that I was working with at the bookstore told me that this book is really, really, really good mystery as well. And I haven't read it, but maybe I will pick it up. I feel like I was definitely working my way through and then I stopped because the spine's kind of cracked. So I'll give it a shot. Defending Jacob, William Landley. You know what? I remember this definitely suffered from like too much hype. It wasn't as good as like everyone made it out to be. I would say honestly, just watched the show on Apple TV. Giles books here. Blood Memory. I heard this is really amazing, but it's quite a hefty one. And Natchez Burning. I got this. Again, it's super hefty. I got this at a thrift store, both of them, and I found out Natchez Burning was a part of like a series, and I think it's like the second one, so I have to get the other ones. I got a Dennis Lehane book, Prayers for Rain. I got this at a thrift store too. Like, it's super beat up, but I heard this is pretty good. I really liked Shutter Island. I really liked Mystic River that he did. The Drop's really good, so I feel like I'm gonna like this, but I just haven't picked it up yet. And The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is the same kind of thing as George R.R. Martin, and we know how I feel about him. This is supposed to be a trilogy, and only the first and the second are out, and it's been over 10 years. I have not picked this up because I'm not doing that to myself. I'm not getting into a series that's not going to get done, and you're like waiting and waiting and waiting, and as a fan, that's the worst. Like, over 10 fucking years, do it. Just do it. It's your one job. It's your one job. 2001: A Space Odyssey. Just watch the movie. Brokeback Mountain. This is a novella. I think technically she had originally released it in a collection. It's a really beautiful story. Really, really beautiful story. And the movie is so amazing. Definitely worth a read. It's like maybe 20 pages. And The Female of the Species. I read this year. Pretty dark for a YA, I'm not gonna lie, but again, me and YA, I'm not a huge fan of it, so it was okay. Dorian Gray. This is an excellent classic book. Oscar Wilde is brilliant. So yes, this is a great book. I feel like I should put this with my other Penguin books. The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. Haven't read it yet. Jude the Obscure by Thomas Hardy. I have not read this yet, but I heard from a couple people on YouTube that this is an excellent book, but it's super sad. I sometimes struggle with classics, so I have to really be in the mood to want to read something really literary. Non-fiction books here. The Elements of Style. This is like how to write better, on writing well. Same thing. And then How to Read Literature Like a Professor. A lively and entertaining guide to reading between the lines. It's actually a really interesting a book on interpreting like the deeper meanings of things in books. Artie Lang, Too Fat to Fish. He is a comedian. This is his memoir about his life and his struggles with addiction. This is written in the time he was on the Howard Stern show, so it's kind of dated, but Look Me in the Eye, My Life with Asperger's by John Elder Robson. This is a really good memoir about a man that has Asperger's but didn't know he had Asperger's because it wasn't really recognized at the time. And then he wrote a follow-up called Raising Cubby, A Father and Son's Adventures with Asperger's, Trains, Tractors, and High Explosives. His son also, when he had a son, has Asperger's, so it's him with Asperger's raising a son with Asperger's. Both of these memoirs are really beautiful, and they are something that really touched me, and yeah, it's just, they are really amazing books. Definitely check it out. Rain. Apparently this is like a mystery. I got it on sale, but I haven't picked it up yet. And Frank, I recommended this in my nonfiction video. It's a funny story with this really obscure, eccentric musician in England. Howard Stern's Private Parts. This is his autobiography. It did become a movie as well. If you're into Howard Stern, you'll like it, but if you're not entirely sure, it's one of those like really obscure books you probably wouldn't pick up unless you like wanted to know more about this person. The Nickel Boys, Colson Whitehead. This is a really good book I read last year. It was the winner of the Pulitzer Prize and it deserved it. This is about oh my god, what were they called? Reformatory schools? Juvenile reformatory, and it ended up just being a place of horrific abuse on children, and it is based on an actual place in Florida, Tallahassee. So, really excellent book. The Art of Racing in the Rain, one of the saddest books ever. And The Visible Man by Chuck Klosterman. This is his first fiction book. I remember it being like a mind fuck of a book, but I don't remember what it is. I read it so many years ago, but I wish I could tell you more, but I sadly don't remember. Mutiny on the Bounty. I have heard that this is such a bizarre story. I believe it's based on a true story about a mutiny, obviously. I've heard such weird things about this book that it so intrigues me. But it just, the writing looks just so dense, and I just haven't got to it. So I will eventually, because like I said, it really intrigues me. The reviews, people are just so vague about how odd this story is. So Spider in the Fly, a writer, a murder, and a story of obsession. This is a true crime book, and it's okay. To be honest, it's not great. I think this story intrigued me more, but once I got into the book, I just wasn't into it. Any Known Blood by Lawrence Hill. I did have the pleasure of meeting Lawrence Hill. Block my name out there. There we go. So I did have the pleasure of meeting him, and he did sign it. He's more famously known for writing the Book of Negroes. This is a really good family drama, and it takes place in Oakville, Ontario, which is not that far from here. So follows 5 generations of an African Canadian American family in a compelling story that slips effortlessly from the slave trade in the 19th century Virginia to modern, predominantly white suburbs of Oakville, Ontario, once a final stop on the Underground Railroad. So yeah, it's I think it's going to be really good. He's a beautiful writer. I read some of his other stuff, but I bought this one to get it signed, and I haven't read it yet. 2 Toni Morrison books here. I have Beloved, and I have The Bluest Eye. I haven't read The Bluest Eye yet because Beloved so deeply unsettled me last year. It's super heavy, and I wasn't ready to jump into The Bluest Eye. So I will one day. Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This is a excellent book. This is about an abusive relationship, so trigger warning for that. But it's based on something in Colleen Hoover's life that she went through, so it's super personal. It's honestly really good book. It's super well written. I really love this book. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He is a psychiatrist. And this is his memoir about being in a Nazi death camp. Frankl argues that we cannot avoid suffering, but we can choose how to cope with it, find meaning in it, and move forward. It's such an interesting book, and it's so incredible. This is I think one of the best books ever, and I think it's definitely one of those on those lists, it should be, where if you're going to read something, anything before the end of your life, read this book. Perfect Justice, prosecuting Casey Anthony. I am going to do a true crime series, but closer to Halloween, so I'll talk more in depth about this. Never have I been more pissed off in a book ever than this one. To Girls, this is an art history fiction book about someone meeting Degas. I was actually very fortunate to see some of Degas' paintings, and this particular statue that's on the cover of the ballerina at the Met in New York. So yeah, it's, if you're into that type of a book, it's in Paris 1878, historical fiction, art stuff, you'll like this. Stranger Beside Me. I've recommended it before. Ted Bundy book, excellent book. And the autobiography of Malcolm X, excellent book. And again, something that I think everybody should read and know about. 2 Karen Slaughter books here. I have The Good Daughter, and I have Pretty Girls. I've recommended both of these in videos before. Super dark, but really well done. Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin. This is horror. I read it this year, didn't really like it. 2 classic IR11 books, which I love that they both have painted sprayed edges, but they're old as fucking dirt. A Kiss Before Dying and The Boys from Brazil. They're both mysteries, but I recommended this one before. They smell too. It smells so weird. It's so old. The Boys from Brazil is an odd one, I will say. I don't know how many people would actually like this book. I feel like it's a niche one. They're Nazi hunters. So, oh, these books smell so weird. Okay, we know I like Dan Brown. I have my hardcovers in another video, but I have The Lost Symbol, another copy of Inferno, and another copy of Origin. So I read the paperbacks and I keep the hardcovers. And then I have The Runes by Scott Smith. I have not read this yet, but apparently this is body horror. I'm not super into gore and body horror, but I've heard this is amazing, and I got it at a thrift store, so one day. My Shirley Jackson collection here. I have The Lottery, which I've talked about, one of the best short story collections ever. Really, really great horror. Haunting of Hill House. I like the Netflix show better. And actually a nonfiction of hers, Life Among the Savages, and this is Shirley Jackson writing about being a parent of like kids and toddlers and a newborn. Yeah, it's actually really funny, and I really, really, really enjoyed this. It was so great. I feel like when I do have kids, I'm probably going to read this again. Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I DNF'd this. I didn't like it at all. This is How You Lose the Time War. I think this is a really, really good time travel book. I've heard some people say they don't like it. It's in a letter form pretty much, but I really liked it. I tabbed the fuck out of it. I thought it was really beautifully written, so... and then I have a couple books from J.M. Coetzee here. He is a South African Nobel Prize winner. So we have Disgrace, I believe. This is like a father-daughter story. Foe, I believe this is, yes, it's another retelling of Robinson Crusoe. And Waiting for the Barbarians. Waiting for the Barbarians was adapted into a movie with Johnny Depp and Robert Pattinson, but I have not seen it yet. This is like a dark historical fiction. I'm pretty sure this is the one he won the Nobel Prize for. Yes, winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature. So, Erin Morgenstern's Night Circus. Odd fucking book. I don't even know if I really liked this, to be honest with you. And The Starless Sea, this is her follow-up book to this one. She hasn't written anything in between, and it took her like 10 years to do this. By the sounds of it, I think people like this one better, so I'm really excited to read this one. I just have to be in the mood for like a fantastical kind of story. New Me by Hallie Butler. Apparently this is like millennial fiction. I haven't read it yet. It's small, but If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. I'm so sorry. This is translated from Japanese, and about a man who makes a deal with the devil, and he's supposed to erase like cats from the world, but he ends up having like a crisis of conscience. So it's one of those types of stories. Baby Teeth I've talked about before. Exit I've also talked about before, and fast-paced thriller. I have two John le Carrés. I have The Night Manager, which was adapted into a miniseries on AMC about an arms dealer, and The Constant Gardener, which was adapted into a movie with Ralph Fiennes and Rachel Weisz, and it's such an amazing movie, and this is such an amazing book. The love story between Tess and Justin at the center of this is one of the best love stories ever. This was actually based on a true story about a pharmaceutical scandal in Africa, and they were like experimenting on people illegally. So excellent book. It's dense, but it's one of my favorite books of all time. Sidney Sheldon books here. I haven't read him yet, but I haven't actually read any of these yet, but I remember seeing a guy one time and he told me that this book, The Master of the Game, was really good. And I thought it was going to be like a mystery, but they're in the romance section, so I don't really know if I'm going to like this. But they were all on sale, so I ended up buying a few. The Master of the Game, Rage of Angels, The Other Side of Midnight, and Tell Me Your Dreams. They like sound like mysteries, but they're like the plots of them all, but they're in the romance section, so I'm not entirely sure how like thrilling or mysterious these are actually going to be. Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. I've heard this has an amazing twist ending, but it's super dense, so I have not read it yet. I tried like 2 or 3 times. I've dog-eared it and I keep putting it down. Teleportation Accident. Again, I've tried reading this 2 or 3 times and I cannot read it. Flowers for Algernon, one of my favorite books of all time. This is such a sad book by Daniel Keyes. Honestly, There is a movie, I haven't seen it, but wow, what a fucking sad book. Jesus Christ. And The Tin Drum by Günter Grass I just talked about in my last wrap up. I have these two erotic fictions here. I read the first one, Savage Vow, and then Vicious Oath. They are the Ivanov crime family books. I think there's 3. They follow a different couple each time. I don't know. I haven't got to the second one yet, but the first one was pretty good. American Elsewhere. I keep looking at this book like I'm gonna pick it up, and I never do. I've tried it, I think 2 or 3 times, and I can't get into it, but it sounds so interesting that every time I read the back of it, I want to read it, so I never get rid of it. The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. The Rainbow Comes and Goes. It's Anderson Cooper and Gloria Vanderbilt. Super interesting woman. What a life she lived. This is a really good book. And also the documentary on HBO is really, really good. I didn't know so much about this woman. She's amazing. Anderson Cooper's mother. People always ask me how I read so much and how I read so fast. How to read a book. Legit. A classic guide to intelligent reading. Okay. This is like an odd thing about me. When I travel or when I go somewhere, I always look for who died in that place I'm going. I always look up who's dead here that I can visit, and I go visit gravestones. I've seen like JFK and Jackie O and like the Kennedys there. I've seen F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda. My friend and I took a train, an hour train from DC to go see the Fitzgeralds. Yeah, there's something about going to pay your respects to a historical figure or, an author or something when you can't actually meet them. So, yeah, we did that. And I got this guide. Where are they buried and how did they die? And it's just a bunch of like celebrities or historical people. And it tells you like where in the world you can go visit them, their body. But yeah, so I bought this. And now every time I travel, I'm going to look up where I'm going and see who's there. Okay. This is like an odd thing about me. When I travel or when I go somewhere, I always look for who died in that place I'm going. I always look up who's dead here that I can visit, and I go visit gravestones. I've seen like JFK and Jackie O and like the Kennedys there. I've seen F. Scott Fitzgerald and Zelda. My friend and I took a train, an hour train from DC to go see the Fitzgeralds. Yeah, there's something about going to pay your respects to a historical figure or, an author or something when you can't actually meet them. So, yeah, we did that. And I got this guide. Where are they buried and how did they die? And it's just a bunch of like celebrities or historical people. And it tells you like where in the world you can go visit them, their body. But yeah, so I bought this. And now every time I travel, I'm going to look up where I'm going and see who's there. And that's it. I do have more planned. I promise I'm going to go back to weekly now. I just needed a break. So I actually have some things planned. Like I plan on doing like, I have 2 books where I'm going to do like an analyzed review. I hope you like it. And I'm thinking about doing like, not just recommendation videos, but like single book like reviews of like just talk about one book and review it. So yes, thank you so much for watching and subscribing. Please like, comment, and subscribe to see more. Let me know what you think. Let me know if like you'd be into the single book reviews or more analyzed types of reviews, and in-depth looks at reviews. Yeah, so I want to have an exit. Bye.